Well, hey there, guys. I'm Axel the Beast of ZeldaNinja.net, and this is partially, like, my own video, but it's also a response to Cody's video, so, you should check out his original video right there, because, you'll get an idea of what we're talking about, but just as a rough outline, he talked about how the, there's probably going to be motion controls for most of the future Zelda games, because Nintendo have stated that they kind of don't really think they can go back after doing the motion controls, or something along those lines. So this is like that, but I basically just expanded it a little bit into talking about the near future of Zelda in general, because, Skyward Sword's less than a week away, but, what's next? I mean, the Wii U and 3DS are inevitably going to get a Zelda game, so this is just a discussion about the upcoming consoles and, well, current console and upcoming console, and their upcoming Zelda games, which are definitely going to happen, definitely going to appear. So, just going to go over my thoughts on them real quick, and also address what Cody said as well. Now, Cody said that the people who are, like, complaining about this, or upset about this, and are really worried about the future of Zelda because of this, they haven't played the game yet, and really, as he said, he pointed this out, that, it's gotten a lot of positive reviews so far, and while it's gotten a few negative ones, they haven't really knocked the motion controls as far as I know. Maybe I should go read those negative reviews before I say that, but I haven't been reading most of the reviews, but from what I gathered from skimming some of the, like, headlines about them and whatnot, it really didn't seem like they were talking about the motion controls, more like the game design as things that they weren't wowed by, And, there are some people who can't play motion control games because of physical limitations, but largely those numbers are few, so I don't think that impacts the future of Zelda in a major way, though perhaps it does indicate that Nintendo should probably make some games that aren't going to be totally motion control based. But I think that's inevitable anyway, because I don't think, like Nintendo, when they make statements like this, I mean, any company really, this is just a basic fact of business usually, when you're keeping your products under wraps, not all the statements that are made tend to be completely accurate and reflecting the truth of the situation, and that means, and particularly with things Nintendo have claimed, not everything they've said ends up completely coming true, at least not in my experience in the time I've paid attention to Zelda news. So, and aside from that, I just don't expect that every Zelda game for freaking ever is going to be a motion-controlled game. So yeah, well, I think that the Wii U game probably will be motion-control-based, and possibly it'll be a concept that will be kind of present in a lot of the, upcoming Zelda games. They'll be thinking with it a lot. I don't really expect that it's going to be like something that's going to totally dominate the Zelda, the Zelda series for the near foreseeable future. I think pretty quickly, maybe even as quickly as the 3DS, we're probably going to get some games that aren't entirely motion control based, or aren't at all. I mean, I just don't think that they're going to focus on it so hard for a long period of time. Maybe for the console games, that's probably reasonable to expect, but it just doesn't seem to me that's something that's going to stick for an incredibly long time, because I've always regarded the motion controls as a transition technology of sorts. I don't particularly expect to see motion controls on their own staying around for a while, but rather they'll be used to move into more advanced technology. And I also don't like the idea, nor expect to see motion controls or whatever might follow to be the only form of gaming. I definitely think standard controllers are going to be around for a long time, and possibly forever. Preferably forever. Now, moving on to the 3DS stuff, the news is a bit odd on that one, though not necessarily more odd or at least more vague than the Wii U news, but basically they've suggested that the game will be like Ocarina of Time 3D, like a similar kind of gameplay. They're going to expand on what they did in that. But they've also, in a separate interview, suggested that Miyamoto was considering doing a 2D game, because he was thinking of basing it off like the older 2D games where they had like multi-layered overworlds. Now, what I believe he's talking about here, or almost definitely he's talking about here, is actually the like the Dark World in A Link to the Past, or like the Time Travel in Oracle of Ages, or like the Normal World in Subrosia, or the Seasons in Oracle of Seasons, things like that. And he's suggesting that they could have these like multi-layered overworlds somehow, or worlds, and have the 3D effect built onto that, which is an interesting idea. And I definitely don't think, despite what some people have said, that just because it's going to be a 3D game, they can't do 2D. There are ways you can make the 3D look freaking amazing in 2D. The short amount of time I've had my 3DS, some of the menus and stuff do look kind of cool in 3D, even though they're completely 2D. So, well, like 2D plain, not 2D. You get my point. The 3D effect is possible in 2D, even though it's 2D. you know what I'm talking about. If you have a 3DS, you know exactly what I'm saying, so don't act like I'm crazy, because I'm not. So basically, the future 3DS game, what they're going to do with it is pretty unclear. They talked, I mean, some people think the 2D thing meant they'll probably be doing A Link to the Past, like a Link to the Past remake or something, but they were pretty much discussing that in the context of it being a new game, so I really don't think so. Additionally, you know, they've said that they're not going to be doing a remake next for the 3DS, and that includes the Majora's Mask thing, Operation Moonfall or whatever, because they basically said that they're not going to do that right now. They didn't really even clarify whether they're going to do it or not, so it's like nothing's changed. It's like, we still might do it if enough people want it. They didn't clarify if enough people did want it yet, they just clarified that they noticed some people did want it. So, who knows what they're talking about there. But yeah, so the next game won't be a remake. Whether it's going to be the 3D thing or the 2D thing, with the 3D effect added on, of course, is pretty unclear. So yeah, it's kind of an unknown. You know, they've talked about wanting to continue the things with Ocarina of Time 3D, so that's... I'm thinking that that's probably going to be most likely to be the next thing they're going to do, because the thing Miyamoto talked about, or they talked about Miyamoto talking about, was kind of presented more like an odd idea, and it would be less obvious of a choice, I think. It's just kind of an obscure concept that I think would be more something they're going to experiment with, rather than the first... You know, the first example of an original Zelda game on the console where they're really going to take advantage of what the console can do, the handheld console. So, I'm expecting something more along the lines of Ocarina of Time 3D at first, and maybe the 2D idea will be explored later, if at all. Another thing we always wonder about is, like, with a new Zelda game, what is it going to look like? What kind of visual style is it going to have? And of course, that's not something we can be sure on, though it is something I've enjoyed, you know, like, speculating on in the past, and managed to pretty much call it with Skyward Sword, so I thought I'd give some thoughts on that. You know, clearly, though, in this case, we can be a little more certain on what they're going to do just because of the nature of the consoles. This is their first 3D... This is Nintendo's first 3D console, though it's a handheld, which is a little odd, and it's their first HD console. So clearly, unless they're stupid, they're going to be making games based on, you know, like what those consoles are capable of visually, their unique visual concepts. So, what we're going to be basically sure, what we can be very, very sure of is it's going to be an HD Zelda and it's going to be a 3D Zelda. And I think visually we can expect them to come up with a style that they really feel can take advantage of those, you know, those visual thingies. So, like, for the Wii U, I kind of expect something... I mean, I don't think it's going to look exactly like the tech demo we saw. I mean, that was Twilight Princess. That was just an HD Twilight Princess. I expect something a little between Twilight Princess, you know, something, a very realistic look. Maybe even not quite Twilight Princess, but maybe a little more like, you know, you'd see in Skyrim or something. You know, Elder Scrolls 5, I think, Skyrim. But also, you know, with the stylization of a Zelda game. So, like, elements of that, of Twilight Princess, and also of, like, Ocarina of Time 3D, which was very colorful and whatnot. I expect something along those lines, something really vibrant, really beautiful that they can take advantage of with an HD, you know, with HD, and have a lot of details and stuff. It'll be detailed, it'll be beautiful, and they'll something like that. That's kind of what I'm anticipating. As for the 3DS, I expect something very similar to Ocarina of Time 3D, though I'm sure they'll tweak the design style and the coloring style and the atmosphere quite a bit. But I expect something pretty similar to that, because that's a kind of like a sort of realistic, sort of detailed style, but it also has, I mean, they've also said that they're going to be basing the new game likely basing it quite a bit off Ocarina of Time 3D. But also, with a stylized look like that, you can really do a lot more of the crazy stuff that, like, pops out at you, or really could look interesting with a lot of depth, that would be able to be, they'd be able to take advantage of with the 3DS. So I think that's like a style and a look that fits better with the, you know, like the 3D visuals, the depth and whatnot. So I think that'd be a more natural thing for them to do than like a realistic style, or even like a silly 2D style on the 3DS. Though if they did do a 2D game, it'd probably be, I don't know, there's not a lot of styles you can experiment with 2D, it's more like coloring styles, so if they do that, and I don't think that's going to be the next game, it'll be a 2D game, or something. Probably more like A Link to the Past than like the Oracle games, or the Minish Cap, or something, I'd imagine, but who knows. So, yeah, that's all I gotta say, so I'll see you guys later. But they've also suggested that I'm going to redo that.